I knew it! Well, sort of. One of the drug dealer guys in the RV died, but one didn't. So now he can cause problems for Walt and Little Buddy, and so does the other one, even though he doesn't have a pulse. Hi, and welcome to Belated Binge. I'm Zach, your host, watching some of the most iconic shows in recent memory like Breaking Bad, which ended 10 years ago, and I'm finally watching for the first time. Because for years, I've heard that Breaking Bad might be the best TV show ever made. And for years, my response has been, wouldn't know. So now I'm changing that. I have no doubt I'm going to have plenty to say along the way. I'm going to make predictions. I'm going to have theories, and they're all going to be wrong. I'm going to look like an idiot, and it's going to be great. So grab your gas masks and chemistry sets as I react to the second episode, The Cat's in the Bag.
The Belated Binge Podcast.
Before we get started, there will be no spoilers, because I have no idea what happens in this show aside from this dude becoming a meth dealer. There will be some language, so earmuff the children. Shout out to Katie and Alice holding it down for the bonus binge squad on Patreon, patreon.com/belatedbinge for those benefits. Let's jump right into episode 2, The Cat's in the Bag. And we open on, well, exactly where we left off in the last episode, with Walter and his wife getting it on. And she sounds like she's having an orgasm, and he sounds like he's going to keel over and die immediately. I guess he would go out happy-ish? Yeah. I thought for a second that while he's like staring in the mirror post-coital, he was going to shave his head right then, because I know that that has to happen at some point in time in this show. But this is really funny. He remembered his taped confession and destroyed it. And he's doing the thing where he's like over-explaining when he's lying. And he's not wearing pants. I think we did another time jump that I completely missed while watching the episode. And I think that it might be kind of exhausting to catch up with if the timeline's going to just like move on me all the time. And they apparently, there's no money, but now the money's wet. Wasn't he just putting money in the dryer in the last episode? I am lost at this very moment. I'm just going to say it. I'm lost. And now we're trying to figure out how to dispose of dead bodies. So what I'm putting together is that he's remembering the events of the previous day or whatever, like while he's staring in the mirror, right? So the plan that they made is that they're going to drive the RV that's not starting to Little Buddy's house. And then they're going to go their separate ways. Walt's able to like will the RV to start. And they left something behind in the desert, which that's going to come up later. That's going to be a thing that was left behind for a reason. And one of the dudes lived. Still breathing, moaning, moving around. I knew it. So much for these two getting to go their separate ways and not having to worry about the, people that they killed. Now they only killed one, and they got to figure out what to do with the one that's alive. And credits. And now coming out of credits, he's waking up on the bathroom floor naked. So he didn't go back to bed after awkwardly staring in the mirror. He just, passed out on the floor naked and stayed there all night. That's a choice, I suppose. I think I've only passed out in the bathroom floor one time in my life. I was not naked, but I did have too much to drink. Anyways, there's an awkward breakfast scene. He's trying to cut the tension in the room and the discomfort with a joke and a funny story from his job, which is high school teacher. And his funny story is about high school girls' cleavage. And apparently even small boob girls have cleavage thanks to the Wonder Bra. What are we doing here? What is happening? What is this show? I don't understand at all what's going on. And now apparently Little Buddy is calling the house. Little Buddy's AT&T service. And the guy who isn't dead still isn't dead. So the time jumps have got to be over because he's still not dead. And I guess I'm left to believe that Walter just came home after stashing the RV at Little Buddy's house, got laid, slept in the bathroom, while this drug dealer dude is just like suffering in the RV, and now we're up to speed? I hope, I guess. I don't know what the hell's happening. The person who's also confused and trying to catch up to speed and is very suspicious is the wife. And she busts out, this is how you know that this TV show was made back in like, when did it air? I think it was like 2008 to 2013 is when it ran. She star 69'd it. Anybody born like after 2000 has no idea really what Star 69 is, but Star 69 was a real thing, a staple really of my childhood, and three-way calling, and I had no idea how many sexual innuendos we had in just dialing the phone. But hey, such is life. Why does Little Buddy have the strangest answering machine message thing ever? Like ever? It's very odd. And what else is odd is that Walt just went to school to teach. Like he isn't currently attempting to murder someone. And he can't keep himself together. He's doing some weird lesson where he's using pregnancy examples in chemistry, and now he's like hallucinating. I'm thinking maybe, Walt, you probably should have just taken a sick day today and maybe taken care of, the murder you have to do. But then he wouldn't have access to all the body-disposing chemicals that he's going to need as a meth-dealing murderer. So that's why he had to go teach the students today. No other way he could have done that. And remember when I said that the guy's going to live because, or I predicted that both of them would live, but it was so that they could become a pain in the... They're doing it. He's becoming a pain in the ass. He got out of the RV. They just left him in the RV. Didn't even lock the door. Like, just assumed this guy was just going to, I guess, die on his own if he wasn't dead already. Like, this is not a great plan. I am going to take that prediction win, though. At least half a one. And Walt literally almost runs into him with his car. And my first thought was, Walt, why didn't you just run into him with your car? You could have just ran him down and this problem would have been solved. He would finally actually be dead. But he's not, and Walt gets out, and he recognizes Walt, and he takes off running into a tree. What? Nobody told me that this was going to be a Three Stooges comedy that I was signing up for when I decided that I wanted to watch this TV show and react to it on the podcast. I didn't know. Nobody said anything. Nobody warned me that I was getting comedic gold such as running into a tree. And we're just throwing him in the trunk in broad daylight. Nobody notices this. Nobody sees this. Middle of the day, in the middle of suburbia, a dude that's like straight up zombied out is walking down the center of the street. No cars on the road. Walt almost hits him. Guy takes off running, smacks into a tree, and gets stuffed into a trunk. Nobody sees this. Nope. There's nobody at the park. There's nobody at home. There's nobody driving by. There's nobody going for a walk. Nobody walking a dog. Nobody taking a run. Nobody jogs in this neighborhood. Nope. Nope. Nobody sees. And now, that is not the most shocking thing to me. The wife is trying to trace the phone call from earlier this morning. Let me lay that out for you. Her husband gets one weird call from some dude, and she immediately goes into detective mode to figure out what her husband's doing behind her back because she's a complete control freak. She didn't ask him about it. She just can't possibly believe that her husband isn't doing something shady since he had sex with her, passed out naked, and got a weird phone call. Okay, she's got a point on some of this. And what she finds is MILFs. And the definition of MILF, she was unaware of what a MILF was, and now she knows. Now she knows. Now she knows that she is one, at least in Walt's eyes, because that just happened. And the dude, the drug dealer guy, his name's Crazy 8, according to Little Buddy. The guy just won't die, and now they've got him in the basement. And we're in the living room, and we're talking about our situation. He's just hanging out in the basement, by the way. Just hanging out there, kind of like they left him to hang out in the RV by himself. These two are terrible, terrible criminals. And what we're discerning and what we're learning, what Walt is putting together is that this guy is essentially a distributor of meth. And he's trying to figure out if there's a way that they can rationally talk to the guy. You know, the guy that he almost murdered and is now holding hostage. If they can just talk to him and maybe it'll be okay. Sure. And Little Buddy's freaking out. He's like, if it was me, I'd be in the basement trying to find weapons to try to kill us. And this is dragging on a lot. For a guy who's about to die of cancer and decided to just throw himself into the meth game, he lacks the don't give a shit to just waste a guy who tried to kill them already. Let me reiterate that. This guy's already tried to kill you. That should be enough motivation to maybe make sure he doesn't succeed. But no, we have to drag this on. This is gonna go forever. So we have a spooky basement scene, and we just can't kill this dude already. Of course. Little Buddy takes off running away, and he goes out to the garage, and I didn't understand it, but he like put a wheel lock on around his neck, and then it all clicks into place. He brings the wheel lock in from his bike and locks this dude's neck to a pipe. So this dude is now finally chained up with a wheel lock by his neck in the basement. And we go back to planning. Just kill him. You've already committed one murder, but we need arguing and nonsense. Let's kill him with the gas that didn't kill him the first time. No, what's really important right now is not killing this guy. It's how to dispose the guy who's already dead, because that's surely the more pressing issue at hand. And we've decided we're going to disintegrate the body. And okay, throw them both in and move on already. This episode is going to go nowhere at all. Just spoiler alert, because nowhere. Instead of actually doing anything, we're splitting up the duties that these two are gonna do. Heads commit murder, tails disintegrate a body. You both lose. Flip the coin already. Little Buddy picks, and like, whatever. It's fine. The coin decides. We've got this. This is just side tangent. This is the really annoying thing that TV shows do. And it's something that I brought up during my Sons of Anarchy binge. And if you haven't seen that show, you're even later than I was. But I'm not going to completely spoil it for you. I'm just going to say that there's an opportunity for a character in that show to do this exact thing. drag out a wounded hostage situation and let them escape or whatever nonsense just for the suspense and whatnot. And that does not happen. The character just blows the dude's head off immediately. And it's incredibly satisfying. I prefer it so much to not having this, like, will they, won't they get away with whatever nonsense is about to happen. Anyways, back to Breaking Bad. You've not missed anything. Walt is still just sitting here. And they're going to do all this freaking out. And the dude in the basement's just, he's just going to die on his own. It's probably going to be right before they kill him at the very end of this just excruciating episode. He's just going to die on his own. I say that, and this thing's going to end up having the hardest hitting ending ever. I hope. So, little buddy's out, and he's got to buy the right plastic bin, and Walter's giving him a chemistry guilt trip again. And that's weird. The way that Walt is approaching this relationship with little buddy is kind of difficult for me, I think. And little buddy's trying to help Walt build up the courage and motivation to go waste the dude in the basement, because that's Walt's job. Little buddy's got to get rid of the dead body, and Walt needs to kill this guy already. And little buddy's advice is, maybe look at this like you're doing him a favor, because right now he's suffering. And that might be the best advice. Also, why didn't he just do it? Why is he trying to sit inside of a plastic bin in a store right now? Alas, we'll never know. And this was funny to me. So the way that Walt's like digging through the house trying to find a murder weapon, and it shows him going through a bunch of things, and it's just funny because Walt has a chemistry solution for everything else in the world so far, but right now we're thinking about going with, let's take a hammer to the dude's head. And there are guns in this house. Maybe try that. But no, what's he go with? Plastic bag. What could go wrong? And he's on it. He's ready. It's finally happening. Yeah, right. It's not happening. He's creeping down into the basement for the deed he's not actually gonna do. And the guy's awake and starts talking shit to him. And it works. Chicken shit Walt just runs right back up the stairs. And here you go. Now the guy starts asking for water. Poison the water. But we're not gonna do that either. Bologna sandwich. That's what we're gonna do. Walt is the worst killer ever. And here's a bucket and toilet paper. Don't forget the sanitizer. And apparently the guy doesn't like the crust. Doesn't like the crust on the bologna sandwich. I can't even emotionally process what is happening on the television. The dude asks about his cousin, and Walt can't even answer whether the guy's dead or not. And Walt goes upstairs. And he proceeds to roll the first joint of his life. And he's terrible at it. Another little side note, I do remember stoves that actually had fire coming out, and them being used in a very similar way to this. And little buddy comes home, and he's not actually very stoked about wanting to share his weed. And now we're talking again, more talking, lots of talking in this episode, a lot of living room time, a whole lot of living room time. And the solution that we're coming up with now, because all the bins are too small, is let's cut the guy in half. The dead guy, by the way, not the guy that's still alive in the basement. That's one way you could do it. Chop him in half. He'll die then. Neither one of these dudes have done their jobs. And Walt is just going to the doctor. And apparently it's the baby doctor. We're having a girl. And Walt's high and happy. And having a little bit of a panic attack. And now the wife corners him and wants to know who Jesse Pinkman is. Which apparently little buddy has a name. Who knew? And Walt, in his sort of mini panic, altered state, comes up with, he sells me pot, and I kind of like it. What's wrong with you is kind of the response. And honestly, what's wrong with him? He's dying of cancer. But instead of telling her that, he does at least tell her off. And I love it. He just, if you could get off my ass, I'd really appreciate it. The look on his wife's face is just priceless. I'm feeling so much joy watching that scene. She's like the worst nagging wife character so far in this show, and he's just laid down and taken it. The whole time we've watched it, clearly, like, their whole time together, his whole life, he's just laid down and taken it from people. He just had to get high so that he could say it out loud. Get off my ass. And it's great. But now I guess it's tomorrow because he's teaching again and he's losing his mind. And Jesse is now the one getting high, watching TV, actually watching the Three Stooges. I didn't know that we were getting Three Stooges-like comedy and that we were going to actually get the Three Stooges in the episode. It's just fantastic twists and turns of this show, especially since we're not actually going anywhere. Because if you remember, we have a dead body we're supposed to be getting rid of and a person who tried to kill us hostage in the basement, drug dealer, attack dog training guy who we're supposed to kill. And neither of those things are happening. What's happening is the wife is coming to visit Jesse. She's the worst. Have I mentioned that? She's the worst. And she actually has the audacity in this moment. She comes storming at Jesse onto his property. Like, and he's like, no, please, you need to leave. And he tries to just like, steer her out and kind of like, by the arm, like, get out of here. And she is going to get offended about him trying to move her off of his property like she has any right to be there at all. And she starts throwing the DEA agent brother card in his face, and he's freaking out. He thinks she knows about the meth because she's like, my husband told me everything. He's like, what? Your husband told you that we cooked meth and then killed a guy and we've got another guy hostage? He told you all of that? And she's like, stop selling my husband pot. He's like, oh yeah, no problem. I won't sell weed to your husband anymore. Yeah, he can dig it. And I'm starting to love little buddy. This scene, he's like an idiot in all the right ways. Like trying to drag a dead body up a flight of stairs and dropping it. That kind of idiot. In the bathtub. And he's talking to Walt while he's stuffing a dead body into the bathtub. Walt's not there. He's just kind of losing it. But hey, at least he's getting his job done in some form or fashion. Good for you, little buddy, I think. But I'm fairly certain that you shouldn't be using the tub for this. And Walt shows up. And he's going to start by giving him shit about being high. Walt was just high yesterday and saying he liked it. But that's nothing to giving him shit about dumping chemicals that destroy bodies into the tub and the plumbing. Because now the house is bleeding. And here comes a dead melted body through the ceiling. I hope you weren't eating. And another good chemistry lesson about the chemicals that were being used, melting through pretty much anything, including bathtubs, except for plastic. Probably should have bought the plastic bin. And now we're back in the desert. It feels like we should have ended with the body drop scene, doesn't it? Like, that's what should have ended this episode. It should have been like a poof. But it doesn't. We have to go back to the desert and see kids playing. And of course, they find the gas mask and they put it on. And I thought for a second that the little girl was going to like pass out or something from like residual meth fumes or something, but that doesn't happen. She's, we don't, like, she doesn't die or anything. But I mentioned, in the last, episode that leaving something behind was going to come back. It's already back. And that's it. The episode ends right there. I guess that we got the end with a bang thing, like through the floor, which was really gross. In one of my in-episode predictions did come true. They still haven't killed that dude. Seriously, I don't know. The first episode of this show covered 3 weeks. The second episode spanned like 2 full days, and they spent the whole time arguing about doing a thing they never even did. At least little buddy did his job, sort of. They still gotta clean up, blood and guts and stuff from the house and maybe patch a bathtub-sized hole in the ceiling, but like the dead, he sort of did his job. But Walt's job, the guy who's supposed to be dead, well, he got fed, watered, and a toilet. He still has a pulse, yet Walt is gonna just shit all over little buddy. All the while, his wife's gonna come ruin everything. All that said, here's the thing I think they did really well, which might actually surprise you to hear me say, because I've given the episode kind of a lot of shit so far. But in all of this, it feels real. Like, these two guys were not killers. I thought it was pretty unrealistic that Walter, despite being a chemistry expert, could just cook up the perfect batch of meth on his first try. That's not very believable to me. But him not being able to psych himself up to kill someone in cold blood, that I totally believe. Does it make for the most entertaining episode of television? No. But they found enough unexpected comedic moments and minor obstacle moments along the way to keep you from getting bored. And that's legitimately impressive when you really boil it down to, we basically spent this entire episode watching these two argue in a living room. Still, I'm going to keep watching. And I assume the show picks up some steam at some point because of how everybody raves about it, and they have some potential, I think, plot directions that the show can go, that have been set up very early on, that I imagine, we'll explore plenty of that stuff. And I honestly can't imagine how they really go from here to becoming drug kingpins and what kind of conflict and confrontation they're going to have to face with it. So I do know that Better Call Saul is a thing. It's a spin-off show that I also haven't seen, but I know exists, in that it's based off of a character we haven't even met yet. So there's a lot that's going to come, and obviously that character must have fun stuff to do or there wouldn't be a spin-off. So it's just episode 2 in a 5-season journey. And I'm down for the journey. At least so far. Even though that episode was that one was tough. All right, so as I mentioned in the last episode, this is normally when I would post some kind of hypothetical question, but since I have no idea what happens in this show, that doesn't really hold a lot of water. So instead, I'm going to use this segment of the show to try some predictions. And I know that some of them are going to be ridiculous, and I'm going to get so incredibly wrong, and you're just going to laugh at me, and that's kind of part of the point. But I am going to try to get them right. My first prediction from this episode is that I don't think they're going to kill this dude, Crazy 8. They're going to find a way to, work with him in some kind of unbelievable plot twist scenario. That just feels like how it's going to go. They're going to strike some kind of deal instead that you don't see coming. Or, second sort of prediction, semi-contrary to that one, if they do kill him, it's going to be an accident. The plan's going to go wrong, or he's going to try to escape and have, some sort of shock death, or kill himself somehow. I think that's how the dude goes out. And third, I'm wondering if the wife's going to keep being suspicious and end up working with the brother-in-law to investigate Walt at some point. Not realizing he's actually cooking meth, but thinking he's having an affair or something like that. going the PI route. That seems to be something this woman would do so far. And that's what I got for you today. If you enjoyed my reaction to this episode of Breaking Bad, please leave a review on whatever podcast app you're using right now. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. If you want to join the discussion, there's a free Facebook group for listeners of the podcast. There's also a voicemail feature on my website, belatedbinge.com. I'd love to hear from you. It also is kind of the centralized point with links to all of the things. And patreon.com/Belated Binge for extra benefits, bonus episodes that I do there, early access to episodes as I release them, and shout outs in all of the episodes for Bonus Binge Squad and above. Remember, life is short. Still, maybe don't become a meth dealer. But if you do, buy an RV, wear headphones, and take Belated Binge Breaking Bad wherever that RV takes you.